Angry MGTOW here, and today we're discussing why first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. I'm just gonna go ahead and just show this little fancy fair use notice, just so no one gets their panties in a bunch. So we're going to be checking out a video by MGTOW University, which features a clip from Fox News, which basically shows Gavin McInnes tearing into a feminist and basically showing all the reasons, illustrating all the reasons why modern day disparities have damaged relationships between men and women and how the West is suddenly going to hell. And it's funny when you listen to the video and notice how nasty the feminist is in the video. One of the women are in the video, and even the black guy, a black guy who's on the panel, and immediately starts comparing Gavin's statements to racism. So let's go ahead and jump into this and see what happens. Once I figure out how to play the fucking thing. Dagnammit.
What is going on, guys? So Gavin McInnes is back and he's taking on this feminist in this hilarious TV debate. They address a lot of topics, which is awesome, but there's really no way that she's going to be able to beat him. Gavin just has the facts on his side. And also notice Gavin's eyes in the beginning of the video. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comments and I'll see you in the next one.
So I just gotta say, I find it kind of interesting. This guy, MGTOW University, he came around, his channel was created on like December 18, 2016, and his channel's already averaging like 200, getting something like 200 subscribers a day. So I mean, like, it's funny seeing all these young guys just pop up on the scene. So I guess I know where my traffic is suddenly going.
The latest front in the GOP war on women is happening in the grocery aisles.
The Republicans in Wisconsin are ramping up the war on women. The war on women alive and well. How do you read it?
Do you think that there is something of a war on women among Republicans?
I think we have to fix that.
Republicans are being accused of waging a war on women for something they're doing that is very different than what the Democrats are doing.
Republicans swear there's no such thing as a war on women.
All-out war that your party...
I mean, just listen to that load of bullshit. A war on women. It's interesting, when men are dying on the job, when over 90% of on-the-job deaths are by men, there's a war on women. When men are when women are have a greater than 80% chance of getting custody, sole custody, and child disputes, there's a war on women. When men pay something like 80% of all income taxes, 85% of all income taxes are paid by men, but women make up 40% of breadwinners in the U.S. Yet men pay that much taxes. It shows that men are being overtaxed. Okay, while women make 85% of all consumer purchases. Oh, they're purchasing it for their families. You've got to be kidding me. Women are spendthrifts. This is such a disgrace. There's a war on men and boys, and it's been like this for the last 50, 60 years. And now we see a society of young men who are fed up and going their own way and just giving up on society, while young women and women in general just getting worse.
is waging on women.
It's a war on your parts, is what it is. Well, we're not doing a show investigating the typical sex inequalities. We're going to be a little more contrarian today and throw a few grenades. Is there a war on men? Let's ask our Dapper Party panel. It's lawyer and feminist writer Jill Filopovic and
lawyer and feminist writer Jill Filopovic. You know, I just love how they all have law degrees. They go and they get a law degree so that they can go and create more trauma for men. So they can sue men, help women, take men to the cleaner, steal their resources, and then say victimization. I mean, that's what women did. They formed a relationship with the government. They became the government's wife. and with the government, they work together to extract wealth and resources from men. However, they didn't realize the government never gave a damn about them. And men have always been the prize. The government has always been going after men. Women mean very little to the government. And essentially, they went after women, and they used women to destroy men. And now women, after they've destroyed men, they don't realize men were their protectors. So now they've fucked up their own lives, and they're the ones who are going to feel the serious brunt as feminism goes to hell. You know, I want you to look at Gavin's eyes. Gavin's eyes are just fucking intense. Like, look, I don't think he cares anymore. Like, he does not care anymore. My gosh, just look at those eyes. Look at the way he looks at her. He looks like he's just about to just knock her out. Like, he just doesn't care. He's like saying, you know what? I don't give a fuck at this point. Jail, whatever. I don't give a fuck. I mean, he really looks like he's about to put hands on her.
And Gavin McInnes, contributor at Tacky Mag.
My gosh, look at those eyes. Look at those eyes.
.com. All right, so Gavin, you've written a lot about this controversial and unpopular topic, so I'm going to start with you. Okay. Are men being discriminated against?
Yes, clearly. I mean, the data shows it, from danger in the workplace to alimony payments to all these perpetual myths that, like, women make less money than men. And we accept it because we can take it on the chin. We're very nice guys. But I'm getting sick of it. I'm getting sick of the way we're portrayed in sitcoms. I'm getting sick of the way fatherhood is trivialized and single motherhood is put on a pedestal, because it's bad for America. And I used to think women were too stupid to understand this, but let's treat them.
Gavin just outright said, I used to think women were too stupid to understand this. And look at the female host. She just laughs at this point. He doesn't care anymore. This is a man who's lost his fucking mind. Like, he's right there at the edge where he's just lost his fucking mind, and he's just going in full blast on them now. He's just saying, okay, you know what? I've had it. I'm done even trying to negotiate. You guys are full of shit. You guys are babies. You guys are bastards. Like, he is losing his mind on women now. He's just had enough. You can just see that he's had enough.
Like grown-ups and say sexism in 2014 is a myth, and we're going to have to get back to what matters, and what matters is fatherhood.
Okay, so you're saying that alimony is totally skewed because men end up paying more of it, although women earn a lot more money now than when the laws and the rules were kind of set in place.
40% of women are breadwinners in America, in American households. 90% of the alimony payments are by men to women. Yep. The numbers don't add up, and women should be able to do the same math that men can do. No?
Jill?
I think your math is bad. Women are 40% of breadwinners in American households because of so many single mothers. You have a lot of women that were never married in the first place when they have children. So they
and they choose that lifestyle, and that's child abuse.
Well, they don't have anyone to pay those alimony payments to. What? Alimony payments are gender neutral. There are plenty of women pay alimony payments to husbands. No. And same with child support payments.
No.
Madonna lost $76 million on her failed marriage to Guy Ritchie.
She's not your typical broad. Look, the alimony concept was invented when it was the Nona cooking a spaghetti the whole life, and then she gets a band. She goes, I made spaghetti for you guys my whole life, and now I don't know how the skills. But now that women are working in the real world...
I didn't realize that's what it was. I'm so glad
I didn't realize alimony was invented in Italy.
Yeah.
It was invented...
Do you see how foolish these women are? He basically explains the reason why women received alimony in the old days was because they would spend their whole lives working in the household, and then the guy would go off and get some 20-something-year-old when he turned 60, and the woman would be left penniless. So, alimony and women receiving a part of a man's pension, this was designed to ensure that a man didn't leave a woman high and dry in old age when she spent her entire life taking care of a family and then had not acquired any skills, making her capable of taking care of herself. At this point, I can see some reasonability in this. In other words, a woman stays in the home, she spends her life taking care of the family, and then basically he walks away with all the assets that they've built over their lives. So that I can understand is not fair. But in this modern day and age where women now have educations, women are out earning, women are getting more college degrees than men. It's been like that for like the last 20 years where women have been outpacing men at universities, getting more college degrees, getting more bachelor's, master's, and even doctorates. And you don't forget, in places such as New York, younger women are out earning younger men. So millennial women are out earning millennial men in places like New York and other big cities. So the very notion that women don't have the skills to take care of themselves, they don't have the skills anymore to provide for themselves is completely ludicrous. And the concept of alimony should have been rethought a long time ago. The interesting thing is that in modern society, men are still paying the majority of alimony. When a man and a woman breaks up, if the woman has more resources than the man, Kaylee Cuoco is a perfect example, who plays Penny from The Big Bang Theory. Her husband walked away with virtually nothing in their breakup. Virtually nothing. He received virtually nothing. Virtually nothing. When they got a divorce about a year or two ago, he received virtually nothing in their breakup. But if it had been the other way around, she would have received millions of dollars. He was a tennis player who didn't have a lot of money. She had something like $50 million. All of her money was protected. They had a prenup. All of her money was protected, and he got literally nothing in the divorce. Literally nothing, virtually nothing. If it had been the other way around, she would have left with millions of dollars, a mansion, nice cars, and people would have said it was a good deal for him because he got to be in a relationship with her for a couple of years. And what does he think? How cheap is he? But in reality, because it's the other way around, and she was worth so much money. Now it's her money is protected, blah, blah, blah. It's a good thing. What does he need it for? Don't forget that Guy Ritchie, when he got a divorce from Madonna, and he collected, he got a significant portion of her earnings, and it wasn't half. He got a decent amount of money. Guy Ritchie, that was Madonna's ex-husband, he collected a decent amount of money in their divorce. People said, how dare you take money from a woman? Madonna was worth something like $300 to $500 million. And there were people leaving snarky comments, angry comments that he's a piece of shit for taking money from a woman. He took something like $50 million from a woman worth $500 million. They had been married for many years. I mean, you've got to be kidding me. If it was the other way around, she would have left with practically half of his assets. I mean, it is downright ridiculous. It's downright ridiculous. And these cases continue to happen. I remember a case in the UK where this man was married to a woman for something like 15 years. And when he signed, he did sign a prenup saying that, like, basically, yes, I won't take your assets, resources, blah, 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 because she was wealthy when he met her. And they spent something like 15, 20 years together, and then they got a divorce. She basically said, okay, well, you gave me children, now I want you to go. She initiated a divorce, and basically she wanted to put him on the street with absolutely nothing. So basically, he was a man staying at home, taking care of the children. He stayed at home, took care of the children, gave her children, had a great life with her. And then at the end, she wanted to kick him out and put him on the street. Put him on the street. And the court basically awarded him, said that she had to provide him with a house and she had to give him some money. And it wasn't even a lot. It was not a lot of money. It was just like a place to live and some money. And she basically complained that she might have to sell her home now, because one of her homes, because of all the money she has to pay out to him. And her father, who was worth something like $100 million, was crying and complaining about how unfair alimony is. The guy basically got very little compared to what she was actually worth after being married to her for like 20 years, and then and raising the kids, being the person who stayed home with the children, and then she tried to actually put him out on the street with absolutely nothing. She wanted him to go on the street with a shirt on his back. This is the hypocritical of nature of women. This is how evil women can be and inconsiderate women can be when it comes to men and their livelihood. And just look at the face on this woman. You can just see how narcissistic she is. And you could just see that Gavin doesn't give a fuck. Like, he doesn't care. He looks like he's the kind of guy that if he wasn't married, he'd just like reach under the desk right now and massage her leg. If not other things.
for
It was called
immigrant-
alimonia.
It was invented for old-fashioned moms. We got new moms. You want equality? You don't get alimony. Sorry.
I think it's important to distinguish between the kind of equality that you're talking about, which is you're basically saying that women shouldn't have, money to provide for their children. Men shouldn't have to pay money to provide for their children. When men actually petition for for custody of their children, they're very likely to get it.
What? That's actually not true.
That actually.
Wow, holy cow. So I want you guys to know that the woman, the feminist, is actually an attorney, not her. This is the host. Lady in Red is the host of the show, and the feminist, the woman in the blue, she's a feminist and an attorney, and she is claiming that when men petition to have custody of their children, they more times than not they get it, and the host of the show says that's actually not true. So even the host of the show, the woman who has her feminist glasses on, quickly says that's actually not true. Do you see how evil feminists are? Oh my gosh, they are fucking evil. Even other women are starting to say, whoa, hold on a minute. No. Okay, I'm all for the sisterhood, but wow, you guys this is just fucked up. Sometimes this woman had to actually say, no, that's not true, because her credibility would be taken into consideration if she actually agreed with that huge lie and all of that nonsense. Oh my gosh.
That is total bull.
When men actually request custody of their children, they almost always get at least joint custody.
Men always lose custody
There's a big
battles.
difference between
There's
they get it and they almost always get joint custody. I mean, there's a very big difference.
There's a
Well,
massive bias against men on custody battles.
It's rare.
I want you guys to look at her face. Look at the lady in blue. Look at her face. She knows that she fucked up. She knows she fucked up. She knows she's lying through her teeth right now. The tone of her voice has changed. Her body language has changed. She knows that she fucked up big time. And she is doubling down on the lie. She is going to sit on Fox Business, a nationally syndicated television show, and actually lie her ass off. And on top of it, she's a fucking attorney. She's a lawyer who's supposedly familiar with these cases. And she is quoting false statistics. An attorney. My gosh, just talk about the dishonesty of human beings, or specifically women.
In contentious divorce proceedings where both parties are advocating for sole custody of the children. Most people that get divorced do actually come up with child support settlements and child care agreements that both parties can agree on.
Do you agree with Gavin about fatherhood? That fatherhood is the missing link in society, and if there were more dads, I don't know, kids would be better off?
Yeah, I think fatherhood is a missing link. Yes, I do actually agree that we do need to talk about things like workplace injuries and deaths among men, that we do need to talk about the fact that men are much more likely to commit suicide and succeed than women, that we have a mental health care crisis among men, that men in America and around the world do suffer. But I think a lot of that suffering comes out of traditional gender roles and these expectations that men act tough, that they don't display emotion, and that they don't seek help. And
Women hate weak men. I remember there was a guy in the MGTOW community who had a girlfriend, and he basically allowed himself to become homeless because he was determined he was going to stay with his girlfriend. His father told him, if you make this decision, you cannot stay in my house. So he said, okay. He moved out of his father's house, became homeless, began living on the street, and he stayed there for a while until he was able to live with his girlfriend because his mother allowed him to move in. And one day he finally just broke down and started to cry after he gave up everything for this girl. And she looked at him and said, you're really ugly when you cry. I did this. I just had this really great video I did with some guys from the video channel, Nearly Viral, or something like that. Nearly Viral something. and they're really great, really great guys. But something that I just don't think that I got through to one of them is the fact that, you know, I was talking about female nature and how women will do these things to you, and women are not, and men are not the same. And you know, they were, you know, one of the guys was saying, oh, there's some shitty men out there, there's some shitty women out there. But you know, at the end of the day, they're good men, they're bad men, they're good women, they're bad women. And I was saying, you know, I was trying to explain that, yeah, but there are more women that will take advantage of men. It's a part of female nature. And you know, he just wouldn't get that. And it's like, a lot of men don't understand that a woman looks down on a man who cries. This is a shit test. She's talking about men crying, men showing. This is a shit test. This is a huge shit test. Women say they want effeminate men. They don't. They continue talking absolute nonsense. I mean, she is trying to tear down men as much as possible. This is such a huge shit test. And so many poor guys fall for this. So many poor young men get indoctrinated by their good-for-nothing, feminist, crappy mothers who feed this propaganda down their throats, and then they are not able to face society. And let me tell you something. A cop doesn't care if you start crying your eyes out when you're a man. He'll keep beating your ass anyway.
I think that's also why we have a fatherhood crisis. I think all of these issues matter.
I think those are two different things. I actually think, to your first point, we're actually coming out of that, and we've rounded the bend on things like mental health.
Feminists see single motherhood and they go, sisters are doing it for themselves. And sisters are abusing their children. If you have children knowingly as a single mom, you're starting a child out with a disadvantage.
Did your parents stay married?
Yes. They did.
Well, sometimes marriage doesn't work out, Gavin.
Sometimes marriage doesn't work out.
It doesn't make you a child abuser.
It does if you choose that. If you choose to be a single mom, which is the majority of single moms.
Gavin, I think that's a weird claim. Sometimes marriage doesn't work out, and sometimes dad is a jerk. He's just an awful person.
Let's talk numbers.
Sometimes dad is a jerk. So here you go. Here you have angry black man who likely grew up in with some single mother, or, you know, mom kicked dad out. Look at, I mean, it is just the perfect, you talk about stereotypes, and then you have to look at the he's like the he's like the stereotypical black guy, you know, who basically, of course, would side with mom, say, because, you know, that's exactly what she did. She kicked dad out and allowed him to run the streets and act wild, and now he's going to have a negative viewpoint of men in society, thinking women are princesses, men are deviants, and by the way, you know, blacks are victims. And he's going to talk about it. I guarantee, just give it a moment, and he'll start talking about blacks and racism and all this other crap.
You actually don't want him in the household.
How many times?
Let's get back to some of these outcome disparities that the conversation seems to revolve around, because I think it's wrong for us, and I've done this before with race stuff. I think it's wrong for us to focus on the disparity and not focus on exactly what the phenomenon is.
And immediately he finds a way to work in racism and in relationship to gender disparities between men and women. Unbelievable. But that is the type of shit that we're going to keep seeing more of, where they just immediately redirect the blame. And if you say that you don't agree with them, if you say that men are being disadvantaged, you're a sexist, you're a racist, you're everything bad in the world. Unfucking believable. But what am I saying? This is the psychotic society that we live in today.
Just accept the fact that sometimes there are outcomes, and the outcomes happen to be disparate among men and women, and there isn't some sort of conspiracy being perpetrated against anyone. You said that sexism is dead. I would agree, it's probably dead, and perhaps there are some social values that are producing some not intentional or deliberate consequences, but are perhaps producing some things that we don't necessarily intend.
It may well be intentional.
Outcomes.
There's evidence that the CIA funded
about it from a policy standpoint.
So this is interesting. He's saying, the black guy is saying, well, so sexism may very well be dead. And so in other words, women really may not be getting discriminated against. Men are not essentially not being sexist to women. This is not true anymore. However, It's not that women are not deliberately going out and discriminating against men. The government is not deliberately going out and discriminating against men. You know, I just love this argument because he'd be the same person to turn around and then say the government is discriminating against black people. The government is discriminating against black communities. There are clear disparities between whites and blacks. I mean, look at someone like this. But the very moment you look at men's issues, or specifically the issues of a white man who doesn't come from the ghetto, and I don't mean to put it like that, but I have to put it like that, suddenly, oh, sorry, you can't be discriminated against because you don't know what pain and suffering is. You're just an angry white male.
Point at all.
That's actually true.
Okay, that's
Sure.
it sounds really funny coming
We
from Gavin.
reward single moms with welfare payments.
Okay, but let me
reward destroyed
okay,
families.
Hold
I
on
would
just a
love
second.
to see you survive off of welfare payments. It's not like women are living high on the hog with their, $300 a month to care for their children.
It's not.
So just listen to this idiotic woman's defense of welfare, basically saying it's not like women are living high off welfare payments. Welfare payments aren't all that bad. Women are not living great lives off welfare payments. Welfare isn't... I mean, women essentially think that their social welfare programs, their social welfare benefits aren't so bad. I mean, hey, it's not a lot. It's something they're simply entitled to. It's not like they're getting rich off welfare. It's not like they're getting rich off child support. You've got to be kidding me. I mean, I said it. When Trump cuts these social entitlement programs, these women are going to scream and holler bloody murder all the way to the bank.
$300 a month. Welfare with food stamps and more than 3 kids is more like $1,200 a month.
Okay.
And just look at the dishonesty of this woman. Welfare with food stamps and 3 kids is more like $1,200 a month. And don't forget Section 8 in there, where they receive subsidized housing and they're only paying something like $100 a month for a 3-bedroom apartment. You've got to be kidding me. When you have something like that, when a woman doesn't have to work for, when she doesn't have to work for her apartment, when she doesn't have to work to cover heating costs, she doesn't have to work to pay for food, she doesn't have to work for anything. All she has to do is keep on popping out kids, and then she gets a nice little bonus at the end of the year. When it comes time to file tax returns, she doesn't work a single day in her life, but she files a tax return, gets something like $10,000 or more in tax refunds for having that many kids. Okay? These single mothers do get that much back because they get something like $3,000 every kid or more. Okay? They get a shitload back when they file as heads of households, and then in the end, they load up, they buy the 4K televisions, they deck their homes out with tons of accessories, all kinds of shit. They blow through the money within less than a month, within a couple of weeks, and then they're right back to waiting until next year and comes again so they can rinse and repeat while they continue to collect their government welfare, their food stamps, their Section 8, and all the other entitlements that they so love. And if they have, and again, they're probably also going to be collecting, what do you call that stuff, child support from the father if they can, if they don't throw him in jail, because the poor bastard can't afford all those payments, and they're living high and free. There was a rapper, I remember hearing about him on the news. I think his name was Nas, or Nelly, one of those rappers, and he had a wife, and he paid something like $10 million over the course of 20 years to this woman. It was some ridiculous amount of money. And it was 8 million or 10 million. It was some ridiculous amount of money. It was in the millions, way into the millions. And now that the child had turned, it was either 18 or 21, one or the other. It had been either 20 years or almost 20 years. She was now completely flat broke after paying millions of dollars to this woman over the course of that many years. Millions! She was now flat broke and was headed for a homeless shelter because there was no money left. She was headed for a homeless shelter, guys, a homeless shelter. And people were asking, should Nas help her out? Even though she wasted millions of dollars, should Nas help her out? If it was a man who had collected this much money from a woman, people would be screaming and hollering, saying that this is some form of child abuse because he wasted all of that money that should have been put aside to take care of the child. She spent millions of dollars, has nothing to show for it. Nothing to show for it. And his daughter, that is now of age, he's going to have to be the one to take care of her because she has no money. There's all those child support payments, gone. Gone. Millions in child support, gone. Not a penny went into the bank. His daughter has nothing from all the money that he gave to the mother over those years. Nothing. Nothing. And this is what we see with these women. They basically buy tons of material. They live outside of their means. They buy more than they can afford. They don't think about the future. That's why I've said that men will work at their shitty 9-to-5 jobs, or hell, they'll even work at their shitty 7 to 12. Work fewer hours, make less money, live in the basement or live with roommates, but men will still have a higher quality of life without having a woman in their life. They'll have PlayStation, they'll have television, they have everything they want, high-speed internet. You can live and you can enjoy your life as much as you want. I mean, fly down to Mexico, fly over to Mexico City where prostitution is legal, and sleep and have a relationship with a lovely señorita. But stay away from these American women who are just going to drain you for everything you have. Because if you get married to one of them, you're going to enter the system, and this is what you can look forward to. Women who expect nothing but mass entitlements because they are simply women, because they are entitled to them, because it's something that they're owed. And they're not owed anything. No one is owed anything. Society does not owe women anything. Men don't owe women anything. No one specifically owes women anything. And they're going to learn this lesson. They're going to learn this lesson, and they're going to learn it very soon because Donald Trump is in the process. Donald Trump is in the process of cutting Section 8. Donald Trump is in the process of cutting food stamps. Donald Trump is in the process of cutting everything. Everything. So I'm not feeling bad because women, as these entitlements vanish, as they evaporate, as these entitlements evaporate, women will start screaming for men. They will say, help us, and men will resoundingly remain silent. Just like when people said, who are you voting for? And men remained silent, and a lot of women remained silent, and no one said they were actually voting for Donald Trump. It's going to be one of those moments where these women say, help us, and no one comes to their aid, including other women. And no one feels sorry for them because they did it to themselves. Because they wore the feminist label. They were independent women. They didn't need men. They took advantage of men. They brutalized men. And now they're going to have to lay in the beds that they've made for themselves.
So Jill, let me ask you this. Is sexism dead?
No, sexism is not dead. Sexism is alive and well. If you look at the statistics, even among American women, which I know one of Gavin's talking points is that, if you want to find sexism, you have to go abroad, and American women are just fine. American women do make less money. Yes, the gender gap has been pretty much, not entirely erased, but it's been very much condensed.
American women do make less money. Yes, the gender gap has not been entirely erased, but it has been condensed. Oh my gosh, what an evil woman this is. She's acknowledging essentially that there is no gender gap because she does not want to account for the number of hours that a woman works, the number of years of experience, and all the other education, the job roles, all of that. She doesn't want to account for any of that, but she wants to admit that, oh yeah, it's been shrinking. It's been shrinking as more men drop out of the workforce and women enter higher paying fields, but it's still not perfect yet. What an evil, crooked woman. What an evil, crooked, narcissistic woman, which was the perfect example of the modern day egotistical, materialistic, narcissistic harpy that men are left to deal with in Western society.
Among young single women without children. But as soon as
they make more money, young single women without children. Make more money than men.
That's what she's saying.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying
That's
they
what you should
make
be
more
saying.
money.
How do you argue with someone who just keeps making up figures?
I'm not making up figures. Where are you
Single
getting-
women without kids
Joe,
make
what are-
more money
what are
than
the
men.
figures? Like, which figure do we trust? Because the president has been talking about 77 cents, that women make 77 cents on the dollar for every man. What are the figures,
But
and what
has
is
debunked a lot
and
of
what
that.
can we
And
actually
it's
accept?
not just maternity. It's also men are more willing to do things like ask for a raise. And men are more willing to work in more difficult jobs that pay them a greater salary. You know, it's not as cut and dried as, and by the way, Gavin brought up a really good point. If employers thought they could get away with paying people 77 cents on the dollar, all major companies would only hire women.
They do it with illegal aliens already.
I wish
This is an excellent point. You know, there's a company called Lumber something or the other. They showed a commercial during the Super Bowl where they basically said that they employ illegal immigrants. They basically flat out said that they, without exactly using those exact words, that they employ illegal immigrants. They employ illegal immigrants because they can pay them less. But you know, the irony about that is they're not exactly paying that. They're not getting less money. You know the reason why they're not getting less money? I'm going to explain it to you guys. You have an American. You have an illegal immigrant. You pay the illegal immigrant, let's say 77 cents, while you would pay an American $1. Okay? Guess what? At the end of the day, the difference is here that the illegal immigrants aren't paying taxes, but Americans are paying taxes. So all of the money that the illegal immigrant makes goes into their pocket. It all goes into their pocket. And a lot of that money gets sent back overseas, gets sent back to Mexico. So employers are doing that with illegal immigrants. If you could actually pay women less than men, they'd only be hiring women. It's as plain and simple as that. It's as plain and simple as that.
that was true. I mean, there was
another show, Gavin.
There was a really interesting study that was done, I think, 2 or 3 years ago, where they had they were looking at resumes of people applying for jobs as lab assistants. And these resumes were identical in terms of work experience and education. And all they did was change the name on the resumes from male to female. And what they found is that the male named resumes were accepted and offered higher salaries overwhelmingly versus the female named resumes. And the only difference here is the name. So I do think that there are some deep-seated sexist ideas within American society. Nobody's going out and saying, I don't want to hire a woman.
Yeah.
What they're doing is they're reading a male name and they're inferring into that a level of competence.
Looking at
It's
Okay, by the way,
prejudice.
all-
It's called post-judice.
That's
They've
the
seen these
definition of
males
prejudice.
stay up all night. No, it's the definition
okay.
of post-judice. They've noticed a pattern, and they said, gee, my male employees tend to stay here all night, whereas my female employees tend to prefer to go to their daughter's ballet recital.
You know, I remember when I went to business school many, many years ago, almost 10 years ago, about 10 years ago, actually. And it's funny because in business school, they talked about the fact that when you work at Microsoft, to become a top player at Microsoft, you literally work, you don't work 60 hours, you don't work 80 hours a week. When you start, 80 hours a week is normal at Microsoft. Now, when you start working beyond that 80 hours a week, that's when people start to take notice of you. Working 80 hours a week at Microsoft is not a big shocker. When you start working beyond that 80 hours, that's when they start to acknowledge you and start to say, oh wow, you're really pushing it. You're really going in. In other words, when people start living there, when people start living at Microsoft, that's when they really begin to acknowledge you. You guys think I'm fucking joking? I'm not joking. It's a damn fact. That's why you still have companies like Microsoft where most of the employees are men, because women can't keep up with the pace. In other words, you have to work. And when I say work, you have to be there all the time. You have to live there. You literally have to live there. And companies understand that when shit hits the fan, you're going to have the men. You know, I had a friend who was a senior programmer, and he had to work from home many days. There were times when he would wake up in the morning. He'd have to fix a problem, and he didn't even go into work. He would literally wake up. He would literally wake up at 4 a.m. because his BlackBerry would go off. there's a problem with the server went down. And he'd have to start working on the problem at 4 in the morning. 4 in the morning. Wouldn't even be able to go into the office. That is what it means to be a man. Men have to basically always be on call. Men have to take responsibility. Men have to stay the overtime, work the later hours. You know, they look at the clock and they realize, oh shit, it's 5 o'clock, but there's still work left to be done. Guess what? They have to get the work done. The work has to be done, because if you don't get the work done today, then the work is going to pile up for tomorrow. But what women do? Oh, nope, my job is finished. My job is finished. I've got to go. I'm going home to the kids. I'm going to the spa. I'm going to have some fun, but I don't have time for this. I'm only here for this many hours. In fact, I need some time off because this is too many hours for me. That's how women are. Men work the extra hours. It's the same thing in the medical field where male doctors have to make up for the hours that women don't work. And I'll tell you something funny about female doctors. They spend a good deal of their time hanging out at the nurse's station having fun. And I've read an article where there was a female doctor that talked about when she goes out with other female doctors, they pretend to be nurses so men will actually flirt with them.
I think I'm going to err on the side of my experience, which tends to be I'm more profitable when I hire men.
Okay, so Jill, if sexism alive, is there sexism against men?
I do think that there is. I don't want to compare the discrimination that men face and the challenges that men face to the long-standing institutionalized oppression that women have faced for centuries.
Okay.
I think those are two different things.
So she will not actually downright say that men are not discriminated against in modern society, although she is saying that it does appear that sexism doesn't appear to be what it once was. But, you know, men, even if men are experiencing something, it's not going to be what women were experiencing for centuries. So, in other words, there's no sexism right now. Women have never had it any better than they've ever had it. But the suffering of men is not relevant or comparable to the suffering of women simply because they're men and women suffered in the past. So that means that male suffering doesn't matter now. I've said it already. These women are miserable. Women will never own up to the suffering of men. I've talked about it when I mentioned Roaming Millennial. I talked about the fact that she admitted to it that she never really talks about female privilege. And she made a video recently where she tried to talk about female privilege with other women. But essentially, one of the things they like to bring up was men can't cry. That's female privilege. Women are the only ones who are allowed to cry. Men can't cry. What the hell is a woman's obsession with a man crying? They don't want to see men cry. Women don't want men to cry. Men don't have the time to cry. You know when a man can cry? When we watch a really nice movie and there's a really heartbreaking scene and it touches us. That's when we can take some time to cry. All right? When something goes wrong, when someone gets shot, when something bad happens in the world, we don't have time to cry. When the rent is due, or we don't know how we're going to eat or how we're going to feed our families, we don't have time to cry. We have to jump into action and take action. Men have to be men and stand up because there's no one to stand up for us. Women have always had the luxury of having men, of having society, of having the government back them up. Men have no such luxury because men are the support. Men keep up everything. I talked about it in another video where if women decided to walk off and go on strike and not come into work for a day, it wouldn't make any difference in the whole world with the exception of nurses. But if men did not come in for a single day, if men went on strike for a single day, stop driving the trucks that distribute food, stop moving the public transportation, stop working at the electric companies. A woman pointed it out. This would be the start. This would be the trial run for Armageddon.
things. That doesn't mean, though, that men don't face very serious challenges, many of which I do think stem from these traditional ideas about gender and who should be doing what. I think sexism hurts men and women alike.
All right, well, Jill and Gavin, we're going to have you guys back to talk about something really uplifting and fun. They're going to be talking about divorce a little later in the show, and that's going to be great. It's going to be so calm and wonderful. All right, thank you both. We're going to see them in just a few minutes. From men to boys, if you have a son, you might agree with our next guest. The war on pint-sized men. Is it on? Stay with us. It's The Independence. It continues in moments.
And there you have it. There you have it. Is there a war on men? Yes, there's a fucking war on men. Is there a war on boys? There's a major war on boys. There's a war on men. There's a war on boys. There's been a war on masculinity and destroying the very nature of men and what it means to be a man. There's been a fucking war, and we need to acknowledge that there is a war. It's disgusting. It is deplorable. It is evil. It is outrageous. And it is time that we stand up as men and acknowledge the disparities that men have been facing for so long and the true sexism that has been inflicted against men. Men are suffering. Men have been devastated by decades of feminism, female narcissism, mothers who have damaged young boys, lied to them, helped to strip and mentally castrate them. I just want to remind you guys, I make 3 of these videos every day plus bonus videos, so please consider leaving a donation via my Patreon. If you become a Patreon, this helps to ensure I can continue to make quality content for you guys. So definitely please check out my Patreon by visiting my YouTube homepage and clicking on the Patreon link, or you can also find a link to my Patreon in the description of this video. Also, never miss another video from the Angry MGTOW channel. By enabling notifications, you can do this by clicking on the notification button below any video next to the subscribe button. When you click on it, you'll get a pop-up that says send me all notifications for this channel. Just click on the box and hit save. If you've already done it, you don't have to do it again, and you will always receive a notification whenever I'm live streaming or put out another video. So I want to know if you guys agree right now. I want to know if you agree that first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. We are headed towards winning because now they're not laughing anymore. They're not laughing anymore. They can't lie. They can't hide from the fact that men have been completely decimated by feminism. They can't lie that men have been abused by feminism, abused by women. Women have never had it better. And they keep pushing even further. But now everything is coming to an end as entitlements get stripped away by Donald Trump, as privilege gets stripped away, as women lose the ability to get married and have children because men are walking away and choosing to be MGTOW, focused on themselves and their own happiness. Let me know if you agree that we are looking at the beginning of the end, and it will be us who wins because we are rising up as MGTOW. We are standing up for ourselves. We are standing against the gynocracy. Let me know what you think in the comment section. If you like the video, go ahead and hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the video, share the video. And just remember that all roads, not some roads, lead to MGTOW or death. And cheers.